Hey there, good afternoon, friends. I'm Pastor Teresa Wetzel here at the Miller First United Methodist Church with your Monday afternoon devotions. I'm so glad you've taken a few minutes out of your day to join me here. We do this on Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 o'clock, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have children's time that are specifically geared for kids about aged 3 or 4 up until about 8 or 9. So if you have little ones in your lives, encourage them to tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Of course, the videos go live at 2, but can be replayed anytime after that. Also, if later on, if you are having trouble finding those videos, we do upload them to our YouTube channel, which you can search out, and it's the First United Methodist Church of Miller, and I'll try to get a link to our YouTube channel on our Facebook page in our About info so that you can find that more easily. Today, once again, our devotions are coming to us from A Guide to Prayer for All Who Seek God. And at the start of a new week, we have a new theme. And these go along with our Sunday readings. Today's theme is Jesus Meets Us on the Way. And we begin with an affirmation, which just means something that we affirm, something that we say is true, that we believe. And this actually comes from Scripture, from Luke 19. And you may have sang the song in Sunday school about Zacchaeus. Well, this is the Scripture reading surrounding Zacchaeus. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." And so what is it that we are affirming? Is it that we are saying is true, that we believe? That Jesus comes to seek us out and to save us. We also have a petition, just an ask, a prayer, if you will. And this again comes from the Scripture reading that we're going to read in full today, but here's just a little snippet of it from Luke 24. Now on that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus came near and went with them. As they came near the village, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. So what is it that we ask? We ask Jesus, stay with us. And Jesus doesn't move on. Jesus stays. Thanks be to God. Well, I do want to read that full Scripture to you. Again, this is from Luke 24, beginning at verse 13, and we're going to read all the way to verse 35. And this is actually the Scripture reading that you will hear in church this coming Sunday, or one of. So this will give us a chance to sort of ruminate on this Scripture this week and think about it in preparation for Sunday, because there's so much happening in this Scripture passage. And of course, it begins as our petition began, on that same day. Well, what same day, right? This is that first Easter Sunday, the day of Jesus' resurrection. So it is that day. On that same day, 2 disciples were traveling to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking to each other about everything that had happened. While they were discussing these things, Jesus himself arrived and joined them on their journey. They were prevented from recognizing him. He said to them, "What are you talking about as you walk along?" They stopped, their faces downcast. The one named Cleopas replied, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who is unaware of the things that have taken place there over the last few days?" He said to them, "What things?" They said to him, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth. Because of his powerful deeds and words, he was recognized by God and all the people as a prophet. But they crucified him. We had hoped he was the one who would redeem Israel." All these things happened 3 days ago. But there's more. Some women from our group have left us stunned. They went to the tomb early this morning and didn't find his body. They came to us saying that they had even seen a vision of angels who told them he is alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women said. They didn't see him. Then Jesus said to them, "You foolish people, your dull minds keep you from believing all that the prophets talked about. Wasn't it necessary for the Christ to suffer these things and then to enter into his glory?" Then he interpreted for them the things written about himself in all the scriptures, starting with Moses and going through all the prophets. When they came to Emmaus, he acted as if he was going on ahead, but they urged him, saying, "Stay with us. It is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. After he took his seat at the table with them, he took the bread, blessed it and broke it, and gave it to them. Their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he disappeared from their sight. They said to each other, "Weren't our hearts on fire when he spoke to us along the road and when he explained the scriptures for us?" They got up right then and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying to each other, "The Lord really has risen. He appeared to Simon." Then the 2 disciples described what had happened along the road and how Jesus was made known to them as he broke the bread. Like I said, there's a lot going on in that passage. These 2 are leaving Jerusalem, leaving in the midst of grief and fear and uncertainty, and yet with this news that the women had brought them of Jesus' body being gone, and maybe perhaps he's risen from the dead, but can that really be true? And then this mysterious visitor joins them on the journey and starts talking about, well, didn't the Messiah have to go through all of this? Isn't that what the prophets had said? Isn't that what all of scriptures have pointed us to? And then in the breaking of the bread, Christ's true self is revealed to them. This is one of my favorite stories about communion, that it is in the breaking of the bread that we truly see Christ. That has been true in my life, and obviously it was true in the lives of the disciples. But I think about this idea of Christ coming alongside of us. Here, Cleopas and the other disciple were leaving Jerusalem, and Christ walks with them. In our affirmation, we heard of Zacchaeus. And if you remember the story of Zacchaeus, he was a tax collector. He was not a popular guy, and he was short. He was probably teased quite a bit about it, and he was kind of an outcast. And Jesus says, "You know what, Zacchaeus? I'm going to your house tonight." That's where the happening place is going to be. Jesus came alongside Zacchaeus. I think right now a lot of people are feeling very alone. This isolation that we're in right now due to COVID-19, our social activities have been eliminated. We aren't able to get together with friends or extended family the way we would like to. I don't know about you, but for me, Easter felt a little weird. My kids weren't home. My in-laws didn't come. There was no big family gathering. And it's easy to feel lonely and alone. And yet here in this Easter season, we have this reminder that Jesus comes alongside of us. And Jesus stays if we ask him to. that he seeks us out when we feel lost. And I think it's a beautiful reminder for us in these days. I want to share a reading from our devotional book. This was written by Reuben Job. I think I've mentioned before that Reuben Job was a bishop in the United Methodist Church. He grew up in North Dakota. And so it kind of feels like he's almost our hometown boy, right? And this is one of the reflections that he shares during this week's devotions. There are times when all of us long for the companionship of Christ. When we are facing some deep loneliness that seems to darken the brightest day, some great sorrow that has broken our heart and changed our lives, or some heavy burden that comes through no action or fault of our own. At times like these, we long for the presence of one who speaks our name, who understands our plight, and can break the hold of loneliness, sorrow, despair, and burdens we bear. Now, there are other times when we are at the peak of our powers and all is going well, and we want someone to walk with us to share the challenge, excitement, and reward of the path that we have chosen. We desire a companion who can appreciate the challenge and victory of life in the days when all is well. There are still other times when we need a companion to whom we can say, thank you. There are those times when we are overwhelmed with gratitude. We know that the goodness we enjoy is not just the result of our good work, but that someone else had a hand in our well-being, our comfort and success. At times like these, it is good to remember that the risen Christ walks with us, awaiting our invitation to stay with us, break bread with us, interpret life for us, give us hope, and share our thanksgiving. May we, like the disciples before us, have our eyes opened to recognize Christ as he comes to walk beside us this day. Yeah, may we have our eyes open to recognize Christ as he comes alongside of us. How does Christ appear to us? I love it in the scripture that the disciples didn't recognize him. Even when he was interpreting scripture for them, they didn't get it. They didn't understand that that was him. And I think Christ comes alongside of us, in many different ways that we don't necessarily recognize as Christ. It can be as a friend who picks up that phone and calls us just at that right time, just when we needed it the most. It could be a spouse or a child or a neighbor or a coworker or anyone who speaks words of truth and hope and encouragement and wisdom that just seems to break through with such clarity. Christ manifests himself in a million different ways on any given day. May we always have our eyes opened to recognize him when he does. This scripture reading brings to mind a song. Well, it was actually a prayer first. It's attributed to St. Patrick. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I haven't done the research on that. But the words are called the St. Patrick's Breastplate. I just think this is a beautiful song. I'm not the best singer, but I am going to try to sing this for you all. Just because it's such a haunting melody, it's such beautiful words, and it's a reminder that Christ is always with us. Christ beside me, Christ before me, Christ within me, Christ below me, Christ above me, never to part. Christ on my right hand, Christ on my left hand, Christ all around me, shield in the strife, Christ in my sleeping, Christ in my sitting, Christ in my rising, light of my life. I just love that reminder that Christ is beside us, before us, behind us, within us, below us, above us. Christ surrounds us. Interior, exterior. There is nowhere that we go that Christ does not go with us. Christ is always there, reaching out to us, offering us his love, his peace, his comfort, and his strength. May we recognize that. May we lean on that strength and know that we are never, ever alone. Thank you, friends. And I'm going to be recording the rest of this week's videos and uploading them to Premiere Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because I've got some class sessions that I need to be at. So I will see you later in the week. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you Sunday. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.